Strength for climbing obviously doesn't mean just having a strong core. So while that helps, it's not the only kind of climbing strength a yoga practice can help you with. As you know, in order for us to have a really healthy and well-balanced body, it's really important for us to focus on oppositional strength, which I'm sure you do in the training room, but you can also do on your yoga mat. One major oppositional strength that we can grow is our pushing muscles. Obviously, when we're climbing, we're pulling a lot. We're pulling the wall or the rock to our bodies. And so what we're going to do on our yoga mat today is we're going to work on our pushing muscles. Start on all fours in tabletop. Inhale into cow, belly drops, gaze lifts. Exhale, find mad cat pose. We're going to hang out in mad cat for a while. If you get tired, pause the video and take a break. First we'll get into the body position, and then we'll start activating into our pushing muscles. It is mad cat pose where the foundation is built to work our oppositional strength. There are a ton of body cues here. If this is new, stick with me. Keep practicing them. It'll come together in time. As you're weighting your hands, push more into your pointer finger knuckle. This is where your hand bears weight optimally. Draw your belly into your spine, tailbone slightly tucked. Push your heart toward the ceiling. Find a big C curve in your spine. Now that you're in the body position, we'll get into the strength component. As you spread your hands wide, push actively into the ground. Let your push go all the way through the shoulders and feel your shoulder blades broaden on your back. This broadening action is called protraction and is a position your shoulder blades assume when you push. Here is where you'll find oppositional strengthening. We'll find more activation by magnetizing your forearms to each other. You should feel your chest muscles working. If you're doing all these cues, you'll actually feel your body working pretty hard. So we'll stop with the cues there, but we'll come back to them and then build into different poses from here with all of these cues in mind. If you look closely here, you can see that I'm lifting my knees. This is to enhance core activation, and if you magnetize your legs to each other, core activation enhances even more. So I imagine your wrists are currently burning. This is a lot of wrist work, and keeping our joints healthy is super imperative to having a long-term practice. Let's take a break and do some important wrist rehab. I'm constantly doing this throughout my practice. I like to couple it with other restorative poses, such as pigeon, but you can do this on your hands and knees as well. Either in pigeon or on all fours, we'll find gorilla stretch. So your palms face up here and lean back. Pause the video and hang out here if you'd like. Staying in pigeon or on all fours, we'll move on and do some forearm flexibility stuff. Move your hands around and point your fingers in all four directions, front, sides, and back, and rock around so you get a stretch in your forearms. This is very important for what we're about to do next. Come back to all fours, and we're going to practice what's called scapular shrugs. These help you understand your full range of motion with your shoulder blades, and they also give you kind of a good notion of how much you can actually push versus how much you can actually sink down into your shoulders. We'll practice this first in tabletop and then we'll move on to plank. I'm sure you get the idea by watching me. But what we'll do is we'll push the ground away and find that mad cat position, especially in the upper back, feeling the shoulder blades moving away from each other as you're pushing, and then sink down into your shoulder blades and let your shoulder blades come together naturally. And then we'll take this exercise into plank. For you, this may be a brand new way of practicing plank. And what I recommend is if you're interested in building your oppositional strength, I recommend that you practice your plank all the time with the pushing force. If you're also interested in building strength other than oppositional strength, but strength toward arm balances and inversions, the pushing strength is foundational for those poses. Let's come back to all fours, and we'll stretch out the forearms once again. In a second, we'll move on to crow pose, which is the foundational arm balance pose, and it's really important to have your forearms well stretched and warmed up beforehand. So wrist flexion, which is what I'm showing right here in this video, is really important to crow pose because we have to get our weight over our wrists and our shoulders over our wrists, and that comes in your forearm flexibility. So just practice your wrist flexion right here by leaning your shoulders over your hands and finding healthy weight distribution in your pointer finger knuckle. So crow pose takes all of the above alignment cues and strengthening cues that we've gone over at the beginning of the video and puts all of that to the test. It truly creates awesome oppositional strength. And if you continue to practice your crow pose with all the strength and alignment cues, your crow practice will advance. Starting on your toes, connect the flattest part of your elbows and the flattest part of your knees. Hands to the ground, keeping your elbows bent, lean your shoulders forward and look ahead of you. If you're new to crow, practice lifting one foot then the other, keeping that pushing action and drawing the forearms together. As you're ready, we'll get up into the full crow pose. Elbows and knees connected, hands flat, lean forward, look forward, broaden the shoulder blades, and gently lift the feet. Strongly push away from the ground and engage the core by drawing the feet together and drawing them as high as you can into the back body and drawing all of your energy in towards your midline. Wrist rehab is essential. Grab right below the wrist joint and pull down as if you were going to create more space into the joint. Then just roll the hand in circles. One more time in crow before we move on. As I get into crow, I lean far forward and I actively push as my shoulder blades broaden and I find that big C curve that we practiced earlier in Mad Cat. Always take care of your wrists. If you feel strong getting up into crow pose, your next progression is to practice your single leg crow pose. This is a beautiful and really fun pose, and with all the actions that we've gone over, with using them actively in the body, this pose comes together really, really nicely. If single leg crow seems really, really far away from you, one thing to do is just to practice a weight transfer, taking one knee off of the elbow and just keeping it in the center of your body without lifting like I am here. Have fun practicing crow pose in your oppositional strength, and thank you so much for practicing with me today.